What if I told you there's a hidden gateway within you, silent, unseen, yet more powerful than any sense you rely on each day? A secret organ of perception that doesn't see with eyes, hear with ears, or feel with skin, but knows instantly, directly, and without doubt? This is not science fiction. It is not fantasy. For thousands of years, the world's most profound spiritual traditions have whispered of a mysterious center buried deep within the human being, a third eye, a mind's eye, a portal to higher consciousness. The Hindus called it the Ajna Chakra. The Taoists spoke of the crystal palace behind the brows. The Egyptians painted it as the Eye of Horus, radiant and all-seeing. Even Descartes, the father of modern philosophy, believed the pineal gland, this tiny pinecone-shaped organ in the brain, was the seat of the soul. But what really happens when you awaken this ancient faculty? Is it just metaphor? Or is there a deeper, hidden reality waiting to be unlocked, one that transforms perception, shatters illusion, and grants access to realms beyond the physical? In this journey, we will not speak in vague mysticism or empty promises. We will descend into the esoteric truths guarded by sages, encoded in sacred texts, and tested through centuries of inner alchemy. We will explore what occurs physically, mentally, and spiritually when the third eye stirs. What visions arise? What knowledge floods in? And perhaps most importantly, what does it mean for you in this moment as you sit there reading these words? Some say the third eye brings clairvoyance. Others claim it dissolves fear, reveals destiny, or connects you to a universal intelligence older than time. But there is a shadow side to distortion, ego inflation, psychic overload, because power without wisdom is a flame without a lantern. In this video, we will walk the razor's edge between myth and experience, between ancient secret and living truth. You'll discover the forgotten history of the third eye, the science that dares to whisper its name, and most crucially practical methods to begin awakening it yourself. But be warned, once opened, you may never see the world the same way again. Now, are you ready to look beyond sight? Long before the age of telescopes and brain scans, the sages of old looked inward and saw a universe. In the shadowed caves of the Himalayas, ascetics sat in silent vigil, training their awareness on a single point between the eyebrows, the third eye, the command center of consciousness. The Upanishads, ancient Vedic texts older than recorded history, speak of Ajna, the sixth chakra, as the commanding center where thought becomes will and will becomes reality. It is here, they say, that the individual soul brushes against the infinite mind. But India was not alone in this knowledge. In ancient Egypt, the Eye of Horus, the right eye, was not merely a symbol of protection. It was a map of cosmic intelligence. The intricate markings beneath it, scholars now realize, mirror the anatomy of the human brain. The optic nerve, the pineal and pituitary glands, the neural pathways of perception. The Egyptians believed this eye could see beyond death, beyond illusion, into the realm of the gods. Pharaohs were buried with the wedged eye, not as ornament, but as a tool for navigation in the afterlife. Travel east to the Taoist hermits of China, who called this center the muddy pellet or hall of light. They meditated for decades, circulating subtle energy qi up the spine and into the brain, seeking to crystallize awareness in the third eye. When awakened, they said, one could see the stars within and hear the silent music of the cosmos. The Ni, one of the oldest Taoist texts, instructs, when the four limbs are quiet and the senses closed, the mind becomes clear and the inner eye opens. Even in the West, the whispers persist. Pythagoras, the father of geometry, taught his disciples in silence, training them to see with the eye of the soul. Plato spoke of a divine madness, a state of insight not born of reason, but of direct vision. And in the Renaissance, the philosopher Giordano Bruno was burned at the stake not for believing in heliocentrism, but for declaring that every human being possesses a divine spark and inner sun that could perceive the fabric of reality itself. Then came Descartes. In the 17th century, he shocked the world by claiming the pineal gland, the tiny, light-sensitive organ nestled at the center of the brain, was the seat of the soul. He called it the conarion, the little cone, the point where mind and body meet. Though ridiculed by materialists, modern science now confirms the pineal gland produces melatonin, regulates sleep, and most mysteriously responds to light. Some researchers even suggest it may produce DMT, the so-called spirit molecule, during dreams, meditation, or near-death experiences. Could it be that the ancients were not speaking in metaphor, but in precise, experiential truth? Across continents, across millennia, the same secret emerges. There is a hidden organ of perception within us. It is not physical, and yet it sees more than the eyes ever could. But what happens when it wakes up? Imagine you've lived your entire life in a cave, seeing only shadows flickering on the wall. You name them, study them, believe them to be real. Then one day, you turn around and see the fire, then the exit. Then beyond it, a world bathed in sunlight, alive with color, depth, and meaning. This is what happens when the third eye begins to open. It is not merely seeing auras or having vivid dreams, though these may be symptoms. It is a fundamental shift in how you perceive reality. The third eye does not process light like the physical eyes. It perceives information vibrations, patterns, intentions, the subtle architecture of energy that underlies all things. It is the difference between reading a weather report and feeling the storm in your bones. At its core, the third eye is the seat of intuition, not as a vague hunch, but as direct knowing. Ancient traditions describe it as the bridge between the finite mind and the infinite intelligence. When activated, it begins to filter reality, not through logic alone, but through insight. You stop thinking about truth and begin recognizing it. Think of the mind as a radio. The five senses tune into the material frequency sights, sounds, smells. But the third eye is a different receiver. It picks up the silent broadcast, the thoughts of others, the emotional undercurrents of a room, the presence of unseen forces. It is why, in deep meditation, you might suddenly know something about a person you've never met, or feel a presence beside you when you're alone. This faculty is tied to the pineal gland. Yes, but it is not limited to biology. The pineal is the antenna. The third eye is the consciousness that uses it. When awakened, the third eye begins to dissolve the illusion of separation. You start to see how thoughts shape reality, how emotions emit frequencies, how every being is interconnected in a vast, living web of energy. Synchronicities increase. You meet the right person at the right time. You receive answers just when you need them. The universe, once silent, begins to speak. But this is not magic. It is recognition. The third eye does not give you new powers. It removes the veil that was always there. And here's the secret the ancients guarded. The third eye doesn't open in one moment. It awakens in layers. The first layer is clarity, a sharpening of inner vision. You see through deception, including your own. You recognize patterns in your life cycles of fear, self-sabotage, hidden desires. This is the stage of inner mirror, where the third eye reflects back the truth of who you are. The second layer is projection, the ability to see beyond the physical. You may perceive energy fields, symbolic visions, or archetypal imagery during meditation. This is where the mind begins to navigate the inner realms, not as fantasy, but as alternate dimensions of reality. But beware, at this stage, the ego often interferes. It tries to use the third eye for power, control, or validation. This is the danger zone, where psychic ability becomes spiritual inflation. The third eye is not a toy. It is a sacred responsibility, which brings us to the deeper mystery. What is truly being seen? The deeper mystery is this: when the third eye opens, are you seeing reality or creating it? Ancient sages did not agree on this point. The Tantric masters of Kashmir claimed that the third eye reveals a pre-existing cosmic order, a divine blueprint written in light and sound. The Dzogchen practitioners of Tibet, however, taught something far more radical, that perception itself is the act of creation. In their view, the third eye does not merely reveal the universe, it participates in its unfolding. This is not philosophy. It is experience. When the third eye awakens beyond mere clairvoyance, you begin to notice something unsettling. Your attention shapes what appears. A thought held too long in the mind's eye may manifest in the outer world. A fear visualized in darkness may draw its counterpart into your life. This is the law of mental gravity. What you focus on, you attract. And the third eye is the lens that intensifies the beam. This is why purification is essential. The third eye, left untrained, can become a mirror of the subconscious, reflecting not truth, but repressed fears, desires, and illusions. Many who dabble in psychic practices without inner discipline fall into delusion. They mistake ego projections for divine visions. They see entities that are merely fragments of their own shadow. They chase lights in the sky while ignoring the darkness within. This is the great paradox. The clearer the third eye becomes, the more it reveals about the state of your soul. In the Zohar, the foundational text of Kabbalah, it is written, "The face of the soul is like a mirror. When it is clean, it reflects the infinite. When it is clouded, it shows only itself." The third eye is that mirror. And like any mirror, it cannot show you what is not already there. There is also a physiological dimension, often overlooked. As the third eye activates, subtle energy known as Kundalini in yoga, Shen in Taoism, begins to rise through the spine and flood the brain. This can trigger profound changes: heightened sensitivity to light and sound, spontaneous meditative states, even temporary disorientation. Some report a pressure between the eyebrows, a tingling at the crown, or vivid, symbolic dreams. These are not side effects, they are initiations. But here is the most hidden truth. The third eye does not lead to omniscience. It leads to surrender. For as perception expands, you begin to see the limitations of all perception, even your own. You realize that every vision, every insight, is still filtered through the lens of consciousness. The ultimate awakening is not seeing more, but seeing through the act of seeing itself. This is what the Zen masters meant by no eye, yet clearly seeing. In the highest state, the third eye does not look, it knows without looking. It is not a faculty of perception, but a state of identity where the seer, the seeing, and the seen become one. And when that happens, the question is no longer what you see. It is, who is seeing? If you've come this far, you're not merely seeking theory, you're ready to awaken. But remember, the third eye is not a switch to flip, nor a power to seize. It is a sacred trust. Approach it with reverence, patience, and inner cleanliness. Like a lotus rising from mud, clarity blooms only when the waters of the mind are still. Here are 3 proven techniques drawn from ancient lineages, refined through centuries of practice, that will begin to activate and purify your third eye. 1. The breath of the inner sun, Taoist visualization. Sit in silence, spine straight, eyes gently closed. Place your awareness between your eyebrows, the seat of the third eye. Inhale slowly through the nose, imagining a soft beam of golden light entering that point. As you inhale, visualize this light gathering into a radiant pearl, small, bright, warm. Hold it for a moment. Then, on the exhale, let the pearl dissolve into a cool silver mist that bathes your entire brain. Repeat for 12 minutes daily. This practice harmonizes the pineal and pituitary glands, calms the mind, and begins to charge the inner eye. 2. The silence protocol, Kundalini yoga method, for 7 days. Commit to 10 minutes of absolute silence each morning. No speaking, no music, no distractions. Sit in stillness, focusing on the space between your eyebrows. When thoughts arise, and they will do not engage, simply return to the sensation of looking inward. This builds mental discipline and clears the static that clouds intuitive perception. The third eye thrives in silence, for silence is its native language. 3. The mirror-gazing ritual, Western esoteric practice. Use a small, black mirror or a dark screen and gaze into it in a dimly lit room. Do not focus on your reflection. Instead, soften your gaze and look through the surface, as if peering into the space behind it. After 5 to 10 minutes, many begin to see subtle movements, lights, or symbols. This practice trains the eyes and mind to perceive beyond the physical spectrum. But stop if you feel uneasy. This technique can stir deep subconscious material. Always ground yourself afterward by walking barefoot on earth or drinking water. Now, the challenges. You may experience headaches, vivid dreams, or emotional releases. This is energy moving. Breathe through it. Stay hydrated. Avoid stimulants. You may doubt your experiences. Is it real? Is it imagination? Here's the key. Don't judge. Observe. In the early stages, the line between psyche and spirit is thin. Trust will come with consistency. And above all, do not seek visions. Seek stillness. For the third eye does not open to the curious. It reveals itself to the ready. When practiced with integrity, these techniques do more than awaken perception. They align you with a deeper current of intelligence. You begin to move through life not by effort, but by knowing. Decisions come effortlessly. Guidance appears. You stop chasing truth and start recognizing it. This is the beginning. You have now journeyed through the hidden chambers of an ancient mystery one that has whispered through the corridors of time. From the pyramids of Giza to the snow-capped peaks of the Himalayas, from the silence of Taoist caves to the burning words of mystics who dared to see beyond the veil. The third eye is not a myth. It is not a symbol. It is a living, breathing faculty buried within you, dormant, yes, but awakeable. And when it stirs, everything changes. Perception shifts. Reality trembles. The universe leans in and begins to speak in a language older than words. But remember this. Awakening the third eye is not about gaining power. It is about becoming transparent, a clear channel for truth, for insight, for the silent intelligence that flows beneath all things. The greatest danger is not failure, but misuse. The ego will try to wear this gift like a crown, but true vision humbles. It does not inflate, it dissolves. So ask yourself now, are you ready to see what's been hidden? Are you willing to face the shadows that rise with the light? Can you hold this sacred site with wisdom, patience, and grace? If your answer is yes, then begin. Sit in silence. Breathe into the space between your brows. Listen to the stillness. The third eye is not far away. It is closer than your breath, deeper than your thoughts, older than your soul. And one day, perhaps in meditation, perhaps in a moment of ordinary life, you will blink and suddenly know. Not because you were told, not because you believed, but because you saw. And once you see, you can never unsee. If this resonance stirs within you, if the call of the inner eye echoes in your depths, then you are not alone. There is a lineage of seekers, seers, and silent watchers who have walked this path before you, and their wisdom is preserved in the shadows, waiting to be rediscovered. This is the path of the Serpent's scroll, where esoteric truth is not hidden, but unveiled. So if you're ready to go deeper, to explore the forgotten techniques, the hidden symbols, the initiatory practices that awaken consciousness, then subscribe, ring the bell, and join the inner circle. Because the eye is opening, and the world needs those who can see. Until next time, look beyond sight. And remember, the deepest vision begins in the darkness.